couple days ago, he said that he was going to be announcing a big deal, a huge deal, about he just said that it was going to be a really, really big announcement that was going to be made very, very soon. And so I want to take you over to that and see if I can get y'all the footage, the original footage. But let me just give y'all a general sentiment of what is going on and what happened, and then let me present that to y'all, and then we're going to go over from there. So this is the general idea, the framework, and then I'm going to present to y'all exactly what was announced in the trade deal so far.
This morning, President Trump announcing a trade deal with the United States and the UK. That's one of your top DC daily headlines for May the 8th. This morning, President Trump confirming on social media the United States and the UK will announce a major trade deal he describes as, quote, full and comprehensive. It is the first trade deal since the president's tariffs rolled out last month. No details yet, but the president's announcement coming this morning at 9 a.m. Houston time.
All right, so that was what was originally announced. He put that out to the media. And then let me actually take you over here. So let me switch this over real quick. Just don't like that premium messing up. So let me see if I can get y'all over to it.
Economy to the closeness of our relationship. It is built, as you say, on those.
Have a surplus, but of course,
guys go ahead, and then we'll take questions right after that. But I think you'll get a pretty good understanding of how big it is. It's a very large deal, very big deal. And Howard, go ahead.
so the UK is the 6th largest economy in the world and the 4th largest that we export to, right? So it's a huge market, a top 10 market. If you remember Liberation Day, they were at 10% because we have balanced trade with the UK. Right? They say they have a surplus, but of course that counts gold bullion, which is, so let's just call it balanced trade. So how do you open up a market in balanced trade? People think it's impossible. They've always thought it was impossible until President Trump came on the scene and changed the way things work. So here's what we've got. We've opened up new market access, ethanol, beef, machinery, all the agricultural products. They've agreed to open their markets, and that will add $5 billion of opportunity to American exporters. So the question is, why would they do that now? Because they've never done it before. And we still have our 10% tariff on, which will produce $6 billion of revenue for the United States.
So you see, people wonder, they say, well, wait a minute. How was Trump able to get a deal to where he still has a 10% tariff on the UK, while at the same time opening up new markets for the United States of America for them to be able to do more business inside of the UK? Well, it's kind of like, I hate to say it like this, it's kind of like what's happening to Shannon Sharp, right? The woman said, listen, we want $50 million. And then they're alleging that Shannon Sharp offered $10 million in order to make it go away. And then potentially Shannon Sharp was going to negotiate that as a part of a bigger deal as far as that $100 million deal that he had on the table. But obviously the deal fell through. So basically, Trump tariffed the UK 27.5% once he started to calculate what they thought the trade deficit was between us and the United Kingdom. So I don't know if y'all remember on April 2nd when Trump presented the whole thing and it said, hey, listen, this is what the trade deficit is with this country. This is what the trade deficit is with this country. This is what the trade deficit is with this country. But the trade deficit wasn't just based off of whether or not we were able to sell goods or how much was being exported versus imported. The trade deficit was also across the board with how we do business with other countries. So with China specifically, we know that they steal our technology. We know that they flood the United States of America with Fenty. We also know that they require for the United States of America or any company from the United States of America to go in and partner with a Chinese company at 51.49%, which allows for them to be able to steal their IP or their proprietary technology, which then empowers them to then sell us cheaper products back while eliminating jobs here in the United States of America. So there's different countries that have different tactics that then require you to do business differently inside of their country. So when they said, okay, well, we're going to put this much percent tariff on the UK, which Trump upped it. Initially, it was 10% for everybody, and then he upped it to 25.5% or 25.2% tariff based off of their calculations with his people. Since day one, since before he took office, he had been acquiring information to better understand exactly how these companies or how these countries were taking advantage of the United States of America. He upped the tariff to 27.5%. Well, a part of the deal that Trump's team was able to secure is that we're still able to tariff them, which generates revenue in the United States of America, 10% to even the playing field, while opening up new opportunities for our farmers, for our manufacturers, for our people to then be able to sell, which they were initially blocked from selling inside of the UK, so that they can better their businesses. Now our country is taking in more revenue while at the same time being able to export more products over to the UK. Now, why would Trump do the UK first? Because the UK was one of the most difficult people to negotiate with, considering that they had a considerable amount of power in other sectors. All right, I'm trying to break this down from a C student's perspective, because I know that they're going to give you all the long form of it, but I'm going to give you all the short form, and I'm going to give you all the insight. When the UAW strikes against Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors, and then they use that negotiating deal to try to entice other plants in the South, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Honda, and so on and so forth. They use the initial deal. They pick the strongest, most robust, profitable trading partner, and they target them first. When they target them, they use that deal as a framework for how they're going to negotiate with other countries in order to allow for them to be able to open up and then resell cars to the United States of America and open up their manufacturing plants. So they say, we're going to strike them all first. Trump did the exact same thing that unions do to the automakers. He did the exact same thing to all of the other countries that do business inside of the United States of America, because we have all the leverage. So then he selected a specific group of people, and then he said that this is going to be the framework for how we then approach other countries, because we can take it to them and say, hey, wait a minute, they stronger than y'all, and y'all not going to get a better deal than them. So they use the UK's deal, and this is why Trump felt like it was the best to take your time and make sure that he negotiated a trade deal, which was going to be historic. Now, all of the other waterfall trade deals that come in after that is going to be a reflection of how we did business and whether or not we struck a good deal with the United Kingdom, which was awesome. Now, the best part about this is that you don't hear anything, a peep. You will not hear Rachel Maddow. You're not going to hear Al Sharpton, because first of all, these people are imbeciles. So they can't even talk about anything on air without their producers writing out a script and then running it across the stream so that they can then be able to speak to it and talk about it, or they got to bring some expert onto the panel so that they can better help y'all to understand exactly what Trump is doing. You're not going to hear them talk about anything with regard to these trade deals. They're going to keep on going to Bernie Sanders. They're going to keep on going to Jasmine Crockett. They're going to keep going to AOC. They're going to keep on talking about, oh my God, I can't believe these immigrants, they're getting arrested over in Palestine. They're arresting them on Columbia's campus because they're protesting in favor of Israel for Khalid Muhammad. They're going to continue to talk about that stuff because they cannot speak to it. These people are not experts. They are just dummies sitting in a chair. They are personalities. They are influencers. They cannot break it down to you from a C student's perspective. They can't explain themselves out of a wet paper bag. All they do is get a paycheck, and then they just tell you whatever it is that the producers are telling them to say, and they're not even their own personalities. They can't communicate effectively. They can't communicate effectively. You're never going to see this happen on MSNBC. You're never going to see D.L. Hughley be able to talk about trade. All he can talk about is blackity, blackity, black on black on black. You're never going to see any of these people be able to communicate effectively because they don't understand politics in combination with business. Trump is executing at an expert level. He is absolutely teaching you a masterclass in real time of the art of the deal. It's the exact same blueprint that the UAW and the Teamsters and every other union is using against major companies, and we're taking that blueprint and we're using it to build a framework for how we negotiate with other countries in the trade deals, and the UK was the best person or the best country or the best people to do it. They've been trying to negotiate this deal for over 25 years. Since Bush was in office, they said that we needed a more fair deal when it comes to negotiating an equitable trade with the UK and the rest of the world. The UK specifically. We've just been able to get it since Trump came into office in his second term. Crazy, right? But nobody is going to give Trump credit. Nobody is going to say, oh, it makes sense. We still get to put a 10% tariff on them while at the same time opening up new markets for us to do business with them. So now we can become an exporter instead of just a consumer nation. Now we can become more of an export nation. And guess what? All of the possibilities that open up from weaker countries. China is shivering in their boots. China is sitting there with a bunch of products at their ports that they can't even ship out of the United States of America, because what's also included in these trade deals, and there's going to be more to come, I'm going to break it down from y'all as it continues to go on. What's also included in these trade deals is what? We have to make sure that our partners that we do deals with, which include the United Kingdom, we have to make sure that they're not able to be used by China and other countries that don't necessarily care about the United States of America in order to continue to do business here or to do business with them. In order to do, we partners now. Two of the most powerful countries on the face of the earth are partners now. Now, you can't do nothing with them without them running it by us, because they risk messing up their deal with us and they don't want to mess up their bag. Because they don't make no money off of China. They make money off the United States of America. Even at a 10% tariff, they still make money with the United States of America. So the UK is not going to risk their partnership with the United States of America and doing business with us, even at a 10% tariff, even at opening up their markets to us. They're not going to risk a deal with them and let China use them against us. And so now you got to go through us in order to get anything done. Crazy. But of course, we got all of these liberals that don't do anything. I stand with China. I stand with this. I stand with that. Because they are emotional. They're emotional. One of the things that I pray for myself is, Anton, have patience to see it through and trust the process. Trust the process. Trust the process. Somebody yesterday, they said in my comments, and I commented back and I said, oh my God, I can't believe that you guys talk so harshly. And I laughed at it. And they responded in the comments back and they said, what is Trump? Trump can't stand up to Mark Carney. Mark Carney is a PhD in whatever, finance or something like that, right? And I was thinking to myself, but Trump is the billionaire. I know a lot of content creators that have their PhD in finance and they ain't got nearly the net worth that I have, nor can they talk about money the way that I talk about money. They not better content creators. They not better at money. They went to school more than I can, but they can't generate as much revenue as I can. It doesn't matter what your degree is. If you can't negotiate the deal effectively and you can't get things done that's in the best interest of your company or your country. And so this is pretty much the framework of what's going on over in the UK.
So the idea was, how do they keep their jobs, protect their economy, and do the best for their people while opening the market for us? And the way is they studied it. Their team was exceptional, and they tried to figure out the markets that they're importing from other people and try to send them over to America. So why were they always favoring others and not us? And what they've done is they've found the ways to do that so that we have new access, right? But the UK workers are protected, and that was the balance. So we did a deal with them in automobiles, and if you're not building here, we charge you a 25% tariff. But the president, and by the way, I want to make this clear, while Jameson and I worked hard, this was the president's deal. And people think, oh, that's not the way it works. If you got to sit next to him, I have the best deal maker to my left. And if you don't think that we take advantage of him calling the prime minister and getting that deal done, you don't understand who's the president of the United States. So he's the closer. He gets deals done that we could never get done, because he understands business, he understands deals, and that's why we're here today. So he agreed they could send 100,000 cars.
He's actually executing on one of the 48 laws of power, which is never outshine the master. Never outshine the master. If you look at any company, and this is why I try to teach y'all inside of the Bag Chasers why you need to be a cultural fit. Whenever you go into the, well, I'm not going to talk about that because that's a video that I got coming up that I'm recording for you guys for the updated Interview Like a King video. But being a cultural fit is very, very much important. I see people all the time say stuff like, I'm smarter than my boss, or I'm smarter than this, or I can do this and I can do that. And then I would ask them, I say, so how come he's your boss and you're not his boss? He understands the power dynamics. He understands hierarchy. The CEO of a company, the president of the United States of America, is never going to know as much as the people that are in the details. If I'm the president of a company, I'm not going to know exactly every single thing that happens when it comes to the finances. I'm not going to know every single thing that happens when it comes to a security or a technology perspective. I'm not supposed to be an expert. That is what your job is. He hires the right people to put the things in place, and then he leverages his ability to make a deal and his ability to be able to get the phone calls and the networking and the relationships to push the deals through. It's his job to make the connection and make sure that he pushes the deal through, or give it that little bit of oomph in order to really make sure that that deal is done. Otherwise, you never get to the table in the first place. Never outshine the master. Never try to outshine the master. And he's planned. Trump has got the right team around him. They're going to continue to exalt him. They're going to give him all of the credit. They're going to make sure that they do the dirty work, and then they make sure he looks good. Every single last one of these people see this. You see how Trump is sitting down and everybody else is standing up? Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention to every single thing that goes on. Everything that goes on. Never outshine the master.
Into America and only pay a 10% tariff. And that protects the car industry. And remember, we do 16 million cars a year. So this is only like 0.6%. But for the UK auto people, this is tens of thousands of jobs that the president agreed that he would protect for them. So he made that deal, right? Then steel and aluminum, right? Their steel business has been destroyed like everybody else has been destroyed by people dumping steel into their markets. And British Steel had announced it was closing down. So the British government, as part of this deal, nationalized British Steel, and they're going to match the kinds of models we do. They'll put tariffs on, they'll put quotas on. They want to do it with America so they can be part of the resurgence of steel and aluminum in America. And that saves them, again, thousands and thousands of jobs. So if you go step by step, aero and commercial planes, they sell Rolls-Royce engines to Boeing. We've agreed to let Rolls-Royce engines and those kind of plane parts to come over tariff-free. And what you're going to hear today is there's going to be an announcement in the UK that they are buying $10 billion worth of Boeing planes later today. But I'm going to let the name of the airline announce it because that's theirs to do it. Part of this deal was always to do it together and to do it strong. And you can see the numbers on this board. Everything about this board works exceptionally well for the United States of America. It lays out the plan that you can work with us in autos. You can work with us with aero and commercial. You can work with us in pharmaceuticals if you have a supply chain that is secure and protected in national security. So we feel really good about the deal. You've heard the Prime Minister. He feels really good about the deal, right? And we started at 10% and we ended at 10%. And the market for America is better. And this is a perfect example of why Donald Trump produced Liberation Day. People don't understand. He gets things done in a matter of time. This would have taken Jameson and I 3 years, maybe. And instead, we got it done in 45 days, certainly, because we work for Donald Trump.
Never outshine the master while at the same time exalting yourself and showing your value and your worth. Man, this is a masterclass. Yo,